Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Boy, have I got an adventure of your lifetime for you today. You have no earthly idea what we're going to be talking about because I haven't told you yet. That's why. But the people that we have on today, Ian and Falyn, as in Jimmy, that's how in my mind I had to remember it. But they are some really great people that I met just not too long ago. Had a great conversation with them, and they're doing something that takes a great deal of intestinal fortitude to be able to do. And it's all, quite frankly, it's all spirit driven. It's driven by the creator, by who they are and what they do. And we're going to be talking about all of that. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Ian Morris. Ian is the songwriter and the musician, and Falyn is correct me if I'm wrong, but you do the guided meditations, and you do a lot of different things along those lines. And I'm sure you both work collaboratively with all of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so tell me about the adventure that you're going to have this summer, which is the adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah. Do you want us to start? You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, it's called the Sonic Soul Mission Meditation Tour, right? So it's basically a meditation-based, event that's really focused with frequency-minded music, and really helping people drop from their head space into the heart space. And then, the biggest question is, why do you get up in the morning? What drives you to be here as a person, in this lifetime? Why are you here? What's your mission? And so that's what we're trying to uncover and help people see, peel back the layers and ask themselves these questions and learn to get in a more comfortable flow state with spirit through guided meditation, somatic exercises, through creative writing exercises, and then frequency-minded music. And so that's really the focus of it. And this summer we're going, right now we're in Pennsylvania. We'll be going to New York, Michigan, and we're heading out west to all the way cross country, and then to San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. And then we're coming back down through Arizona and Texas, and then going all the way down to the Florida Keys and all the way back up the Gulf side back to Pennsylvania. So we've already, March 19th, we started from Austin, Texas, and went all the way up to Burlington, Vermont, and then came down through New York, and then back here to Pennsylvania. So we've already made one leg of the tour, but now we're about to do 2 or 3 more multiple legs. So it'll probably be September by the time we're done touring this year. So from March to September, it's a long time. So
you're going to be tired.
We're trying to get some of our rest here while we're stationed in Pennsylvania.
I don't know that holds over for months on time. But
well, these somatic exercises help our regulation.
Well, and so let's basically, before we get into the trip and what you're doing and the music that you create, why do you create this music? Where did it come from? Where did you learn about it and how to do it?
Yeah. So 2012 timeframe, I got diagnosed with colon cancer and MS, and I was in a pretty low, hopeless state. I was about 320 pounds. I had played sports and kind of had some injuries that kept me from pursuing that as a career. I thought my whole life I was going to be a pitcher, a baseball star, and had college scouts. And
Ian, hold on just a second. I have to stop you there.
Okay.
You were what? 320 pounds? You look like you're like 110 soaking wet now.
No, yeah, I weigh about 210, 215 in that range now. But yeah,
which is a healthy weight for you.
Yeah, I'm 6'2", so it's a decent weight. I could lose a little more, but yeah,
That is amazing. Are you also going to put out a cookbook and a how to lose 100-pound a book?
No, probably not. We are talking about a healthy eating book because Falyn's actually a functional diagnostics nutrition practitioner, and she just has a lot of really great insights with music, and I have a lot of things that I would like to share with people around, mindful eating, because it's something that, like, I bless my food every time I eat now, and it was something I never had done before, and I just got real intentional about, my connection to my food, and I think it really changed a lot for me.
That's awesome. So let me get this straight. You were going to be a pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
and you were sitting on the couch at 320 pounds. You couldn't pitch anymore because you were hurt and you had these things. What was your process? Because you lost a bunch of weight, and obviously, are you in remission now? And
Yeah.
everything is good for you?
Yes. So what happened was, I think, the depression of losing something you'd worked for from a little kid all the way to high school. It was something that you were told your whole life, you're going to be a professional baseball player. And the stats that I was putting out, some of the games I would have a 2-hitter as a pitcher, and I would have 14 to 16 strikeouts, and I would have 2 home runs. So I would go like 3 for 4 at the plate, pitch a 2-hitter with like 14 strikeouts, and I have tons of game balls just from games, like over and over, like these kind of stats. And it was just something that most pitchers don't hit. So it was something that I think brought a lot of attention to me. But my point is just the depression of like losing something just like in the snap of a finger was just such a depression. And I think I just struggled so hard with that identity, like, who am I without this? And so I think that's where a lot of the eating came from, and just really kind of an emotional crutch, to help deal with that depression in a way that I just didn't know how to. And so fast forwarding where I was, really faced with this health challenge, I just felt like I was a, musician, artist at that time. That's what I got into after sports. And I think that I was faced with, I'm either going to die or I'm going to figure out some ways to beat this. And I think it was through prayer, through connecting with spirit, and like having these conversations. And then also through a lot of just angels, like, intervention. I had a lot of friends that were handing me books that were like really challenging my status quo of like, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, and Dr. Mitchell Gaynor, The Healing Power of Sound. And these books just came into my life at the right time, where they were just kind of that eureka moment of like, okay, I can do this, I can look at these things. And so it was just getting started with meditation and sound healing that really helped shift my mindset so that I could look at food combinations and learn more about food. And then also look at portion control, and look at a lot of things like, what are my goals? Do I want to be this weight? I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I'm in a dark space. So I want change. And I knew that something had to shift. And I think that this frequency music and the meditation was crucial in shifting that mindset. So,
Well, I got to ask you, were you a right-handed pitcher or a left-handed pitcher?
right hand, right-hander.
I played high school baseball with a guy by the name of Mike. I won't use his last name, but he was, in 1975, he was the San Diego Padres' first-round draft choice, and they had the first draft. They had the first pick of the entire draft.
Wow.
And they picked him. He was a left-handed pitcher. I was a catcher. He scared the hell out of me when he threw the ball at me at like 92 miles an hour. Was that about the speed you were at?
I think the fastest I ever got clocked was 94. So it was like and that was in high school. So it was like I look back now at like Nolan Ryan, and I studied his mechanics. I was like really all about Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens. Those were like my dudes. And I would just watch their form, their mechanics. I was looking at Nolan Ryan and his workout routine, everything that he was doing to keep him, because as he was getting older, he was still in probably the best shape of his life, and was pitching the best of his career at 40, 41 to 44, in that range, And so it was something that I really tried to mimic my form and also my routine, maintenance routine, looking at those guys. And I really believe that that was something I could have done. But yeah, unfortunately, the injury just, held that up. So
I was in the stands the day that they were playing the Mariners, and Nolan Ryan blew his arm out at
oh,
the end of
yeah.
his career.
Yeah.
And which was a really sad moment because he was really incredible. But the reason I bring that up is
Yeah.
that Mike, who was on our team, was celebrated, and he would do the same thing. He was a good hitter, and he also would get 12 to 14 strikeouts. He threw no hitters on a regular basis, and so the stands were filled. And I bring it up because not very many people experience this. The stands were filled with scouts. And when you talk about these scouts, they wore like these overcoats with these hats, and they had a notebook and stuff. And they were like the Red Sox, the Yankees, all the college teams were there. And so when you're celebrated like that, and it looks like this is going to be my career, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to be in front of a lot of people, and then suddenly it stops. That's got to be one of the most heartfelt, awful feelings that you can possibly have.
Yeah. I mean, I often think about like Michael Jordan and people who reach that kind of pinnacle of success in sports, and then one day you just walk away from it, and you're just kind of you're always celebrated as a sports hero, but as more time goes past, there's more and more sports heroes that fill the pages. And so you're kind of pushed to the back of the line. And I know that people are used to getting a certain amount of attention, and it can be very humbling, but also just a depressive process where you're kind of being shuffled to the back of the deck and not getting that attention like you once were. And I think I've definitely felt that way. I remember games where the police would come to the games, and they would come down to the backstop and try to, with their radar guns, try to catch my ball speed, and that was in Little League, like when I was like, 11, 12 years old, But yeah, I had always had a fastball and threw pretty hard. And it was just something that always came naturally to me. So it was very, I think that's where the depression just came from, is like trying to figure out my identity after that. So.
And if you've never caught somebody who throws the ball 94 miles an hour, it is a treat. It's a scary thing, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Because it's a treat. And so you got cancer and MS at the same time, is that right?
Well, it was 2 different doctors and 2 different diagnoses. I had tons of symptoms that were going on simultaneously. I think when I look back at that time period, what I see is a completely traumatized person. I had lost my sister had passed away. My dad had passed away, best friends. I had lost a lot of people I had played in bands with. I just lost a tremendous amount of people in my life. And it was something that I never really dealt with. Emotionally, I didn't really have the grieving. It was just always being tough or people pleasing or showing up for other people. Putting up that facade that everything is okay. And I think that what was happening is simultaneously there was a deconstruction going on energetically, spiritually, and emotionally in my body. And it was just like slamming on the brakes and making me have to deal with what was present and circulating in my body, which was a lot of, dark, depressive energy. And so it was definitely like a dark night of the soul. But yeah, it was 2 different doctors, went through all kinds of different specialists. But yeah, the conclusion was that I had probably had MS for a long time, undiagnosed, and that I had colon cancer. And so it was just, it was tough. It was hard to deal with that.
But the injury from the baseball, you want to share what that was?
Was that hard? Yeah. So I was running around the bases, and between first and second base, I just passed out after hitting the ball and like rounding first. I just passed out and was taken to the hospital and just went through where they ultimately diagnosed me with a mitral valve prolapse and a heart arrhythmia. So it was like 2 things kind of that won't really kill you, but it was something that working together, it caused like a loss of oxygen to the brain. And so it was just like a, passing out basically. And then once some of the scouts had heard that, they just kind of, they were gone. They're like, this guy's broken. He's done. And so that was, just really hard to deal with, I think, knowing that was just over. So
it was just a bad break. But
yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I love what you're doing now, because you've learned, you were a musician anyway, but you've learned how to take that musicianship and to build it into energetic songs that are really helpful to your head, your heart, and everything in between, right?
Yeah. So I started getting into frequency music, like binaural beats and pure tones, like on YouTube. And I started noticing that certain ones would make me feel really good. And then even though they were labeled the same on different YouTube channels, I just felt more of a darkness around some of the songs. And I started noticing that there wasn't very much transparency on the people who were creating these channels. Some of them would have websites or some kind of tie to them, and you could learn more. And then some of the ones that were a little darker, I was finding less transparency on. And I felt kind of heaviness when I would listen to those tracks. And so it got me to thinking that when you're putting on music like this, you're really inviting someone into a headspace with you, into your headspace and your personal space. And so I was a musician, and I said, I'd really like to take an attempt at making some music like this and to be more fully transparent with who I'm working with or sharing it with, so that they can see my heart, my intentionality, where I'm coming from, why I'm making this music, and then share it to them to, have some feedback and some dialogue with the listener, and create more of a community around creativity and frequency music, so that there was really just a transparency more than what I had found when I first was getting into this.
As we say in the opening, that everybody is kind of trying to figure out why we're here and what are we here to do, and you've spent your life moving into that direction, and so now you have a real clear path of why you're here and what are you here to do. And Falyn Morningstar, that can't be your real name, right?
You forgot the middle name, Kevin.
Oh, what's the middle name?
Hunter.
And so Morningstar actually is your given name, right?
Correct. Yes.
And where did that come from? Are you I guess, what nationality, or what is your background?
So it actually originated from Morgan Stern, and it's like a direct correlation. Like Morgan is morning, Stern is star. And so I'm not sure what year we kind of immigrated over in this area, but originally from like Germany, I guess. Or what did I tell you? Like, I even forget. Like I said, it doesn't really mean that much to me, but no. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry, I can't answer that, Kevin.
That's all right. That's right. So when did you guys actually meet?
So we met on a screen. Well, kind of. Let me back up. I met Ian on a podcast. He was a guest on the Paul Check podcast, Living in 4D. And that was probably about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, probably. And so I was intrigued by the information I heard, the uniqueness of the music, because at the time I was just listening on YouTube to meditations. I had already started my own functional health practice, and I had this, I kind of put that episode on the back burner, but I still went to the website of Listening to Smile and looked to see, maybe in the future I should get involved. So I, probably 3 to 6 months later, I reached out to Ian, and we had a Zoom call, and I ended up joining the affiliate and the member program. And the purpose or the intention why I wanted to join was to actually incorporate the music into my live meditation sessions, like on Zoom, or even with my clients that I had, like one-on-one, if we were working more on the emotional side. And so that's kind of how I got involved with Listening to Smile. And then that really expanded last roughly November, and I started to work on the song scripts, which probably doesn't make sense to anybody, but there's song scripts that go along with some of the albums that come out. And then fast forward, it the conversations just continued to flow. And, besides the business relationship, we kind of expanded more into the romantic relationship as well. And so we didn't meet in person until this March. So we have been together in person 24 hours a day basically since then, and it's going smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how's a cross-country tour sound for a first date? And then it's like, boom, just there it is. It's pretty wild.
Holy mackerel! I bet your family was going. You're going to go do what with who and how long you're going to be gone? What are you doing?
Yeah.
When I originally, I'm in Pennsylvania, so I flew down to Austin, Texas, and that is where we met. So my family was like, "You haven't met this guy in person?" I was like, "Yes, but I've known him for over a year now. Like, I know he's not gonna I know he's real. I know I know his heart and I know his mission." So it was great, and my family had a chance to meet him, and yeah, everything is going smoothly.
So that by meeting him, that validated that their little girl was not going to get into big trouble with this guy. That he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And that's really important. That is a great story, and that you just met each other. When we come back, I really want to get in depth with the music and why it has the effect that it does, and then go into the tour that you're going to be doing on a national basis. And you're going to be talking. And by the way, when you publish where you're going to be, people can go, and it can be 10 or 20 or 25 people, and they can meet you, and it can be a very intimate surroundings. Is that kind of your intention?
Yeah, so we're trying to keep every event under 40 people. So, most events are between 20 and 40 people. And it's something that people get about 2.5 hours with us. We go through, like we said, writing exercises, meditations, somatic exercises. And then we do a little, question answer, and people get to share and network, and then spend a little time, getting to know Falyn and myself and asking questions. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're coming to Seattle, I'd be there. But maybe next year.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We need to take a quick break. You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. No, that's not one of his songs. That was just designed to wake you up just a little bit. I love music. I love all kinds of music. I take that back. There are some types of music that I can't have, but but mostly I love music, and I love the environment that causes you, and how it makes you feel. And how does your music specifically help people get through some of the emotional turmoil and problems and stress and all the stuff that comes with this life?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. So I would say basically what we're really focusing on is targeting the stress response of the body. Okay, so we're looking at lowering the brainwave state to a more relaxed, sedated, state of mind. And then we're also looking at lowering the heart rate. And so for me, what I always tell people is that bass is the placebo. And what I mean by that is, if I play a Native American flute, it's very peaceful, and people can find, oh, that sounds really nice. And I can play melodies on it, and it can be really soothing. But if I take a pure tone, like let's say 100 hertz, 174 hertz, 111 hertz, and I start playing that through a speaker, what happens is the brain actually falls into what they call a frequency follow response. And the reason is that this tone is almost seductive in the way that it you can feel it in your whole body. It's a lower vibration, bigger waves, slower, more subtle. And it's just that consistency of that bass being present. It gives your nervous system something to ground to. Your heart lowers its rate, the beats per minute will drop, the brainwave state will go into like more of a theta pattern, and you're dealing with more of a relaxation or like a shoulder drop, where someone's setting up uptight and then they kind of drop their shoulders and they're like, oh, and they take a breath, and it's just kind of like that moment of like, wow, I need to do this more, right? And so what we're doing with the music is some of the music is geared towards upbeat things like yoga and hiking and walking and cleaning your house and those types of things. But more of the music is focused on what I call tonal music, which is more, it has melody, but it's less in the foreground. It's something that becomes very sedative in its nature, where it's almost like you put it on and about 3 to 4 minutes in, you start yawning. You can see the shifts in the nervous system. And then you see people that just start getting the eyes closing and the head bob going, or they're starting to like, go into a rest, with their nervous system. And so that's really, for me, when we're working in the meditation space, is like, I'm really wanting to get music that is almost like going to the gym. And so what I mean by that is a lot of spa music and a lot of new age music is meant to be, in my opinion, kind of a spiritual bypass. Everything's pretty, everything's happy and sounds great. I want to have different parts of my song that kind of challenge you, like, man, this was really high, and then I felt this like heaviness for a second, but then it got really light again. And what I'm wanting to do is to shift movement and to create movement of stagnant energy in the body. And so what I call it is subtly epic. It's not something that's jarring, and it's not something that's going to shock you or like make you be like, I just can't listen to this, but it's something that challenges you as a listener to create through the familiar and the unfamiliar. So I'm working with different chord progressions, song structures. I want things to be a surprise. I don't want verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, end of song, like a traditional song. I want to have, maybe it's just a verse, and then there's what you would kind of call like a pre-chorus, and then the song's over, and you're like, whoa, that was very different. And so I'm looking at, chord progression, structures of songs, beats per minute in conjunction with another beat per minute. I'm looking at frequencies in conjunction. So it's like a whole process, and it changes, it's customized depending on what the outcome or target focus is for us. So it's very different than making like a jam or, just putting together a song for entertainment. It's very intentional and specific in its nature.
Did you go to school for this? Where'd you learn all this stuff?
Well, I have about 400 books in my library, and I've read all of them. I used to read about 6 to 8 books a week when I started really getting into frequency music, and got into Jonathan Goldman and Tom Kenyon, and then I got into a lot of other like Wilhelm Reich and Royal Raymond Reif and Nikola Tesla, and just started reading everything that I could read from these guys. And then I got into the big hitters, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, and started really looking at the messages and the intentionality behind the work they were doing. And I was like, is there a way that I can combine all of it? And so that's really the piece that comes in with Falyn, with the somatic exercises and the nutrition and some of the clinical testing, as well as the guided meditation. It just really helped the full spectrum of the work that we're doing. So,
and Falyn, I'm sorry, you gave me a description of what it is that you do. Could you say that again? Because I lost it. And then can you tell me what the hell that means?
Yes, it is a mouthful. So it's functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, essentially a functional health practitioner, like a kind of a more of an upscale health coach, I would say, because I do coach mainly women, but it doesn't really matter what age or gender. But we are looking at kind of 5 pillars of health. So diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And the umbrella over that are these functional lab tests Ian alluded to. So anything from full thyroid panels, hormone panels, stool testing, even hair tissue mineral analysis. The purpose of that is to really uncover these hidden stressors, because of course all of us have certain amount of symptoms that maybe we're conscious of or unconscious of. And it was to a point with Ian, right, where he's like full-blown cancer or full-blown MS. Or with myself, I have never received a diagnosis, but there was certainly a myriad of health symptoms, you know, the bloating, the chronic fatigue, the irregular menstrual cycle, the just very poor metabolism, or, you know, assimilation of nutrients that I found myself in like mid 20s. So these tests help reveal, well, really validate the client of, you know, you're not crazy in your mind. There are areas where we can heal. And it's a different approach to what Western medicine really supports, or maybe some opinions don't support with, because it's integrative. We are looking at the whole system, right? We're not just looking at the gastrointestinal tract and going to that sort of specialist. We're not just going to a psychotherapist and working on mental health. We are looking at every single thing that's connected. And that's what these tests help provide, as well as the holistic coaching, because it is very much lifestyle based. You got there because your lifestyle is probably not optimized, or maybe there's unconscious trauma that you experienced in childhood, or maybe intergenerational trauma. So I would say one of the largest pieces I even found in my own health was that stress reduction pillar. And that is where the sound comes in. That's where the somatic exercises and the meditation come in, because regulating your nervous system is so important, because it helps with the stress response. Because a lot of times, you know, we are stimulated 24/7, whether it be screens or work or et cetera. And we are running through our cortisol, we're running through our stress hormones, and over time, we're not machines. We break down, just like Ian and I had those experiences. And it's almost like kind of taking a step back, using those tests as a tool, using sound as an enhancement to your lifestyle changes. So that is basically in a nutshell of what I do.
Now, I have to ask you, because you went through the testing really pretty quickly. In there somewhere, did you say stool testing?
Yes. So we are looking at fungus, yeast, parasites. There's an immune section, all the fun stuff.
I've always wondered, and we need to take a station break. And when we come back, they're going to tell me who it is that tests your poop. And I can't imagine having that job personally. So,
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We're talking with Ian Morris and Falyn Morningstar, and they're going to be traveling around the country, and they've got music, and they've got vibrational music, they've got meditation. It's a whole system designed for our health, because quite frankly, and I would love your opinion, I'm going to bypass the thing about the poop, but I'm going to but I did want to ask you, somebody who's just tuning in is going, what? Wait, poop? And but in any event, I wanted to ask you that since our systems are, and I noticed that you've read Tesla, and and Greg Braden and stuff. And we're an energetic system that is all combined with one another, and it kind of works together to keep everything in balance. Am I even close?
Yeah, I mean, Falyn can answer this too, but in my opinion, I feel like Western medicine is geared towards whatever the symptom is and treating the symptom and not the root cause of that. And what happens is it creates, multiple symptoms because we're not really dealing with the root cause of what's happening. And so we treat a symptom, and then other systems and other organs can become out of balance, because we're not really focusing on balancing the root cause. We're focusing on trying to put a Band-Aid temporarily on a symptom that ends up creating more symptoms. So I think like what I have learned in my time is that there is a need. And I think that what we're going to see in the next 10 years is a more integration of the integrative medicine process, where it's taking on Western and some of the Eastern philosophies, as well as just some of the holistic and more natural ways of helping to bring alignment to the body, because it's been this way for thousands of years. Herbs and different food combinations and different enzymes and proteins and all of these different building blocks of life have such a more natural flow and rebalancing, of the ability to rebalance in a way that isn't causing these shifts or multiple symptoms to just pop up. It's like really dealing with something head on. And I think the other thing that I've learned in this journey over the last, 10, 15 years is basically that our mind is such a big part of this, and I think that what people are really searching for in the medicine field is a sense of reassurance. Like, you're going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And I think like there's a lot of doom and gloom. And when you put a diagnosis on someone like MS and you tell them that it's not curable, or you put something on someone like you're in the later stages of cancer and I don't know how much you got left to live, you're really putting a limitation on that person's ability to manifest something different. And so I think that for me is where there's a big block in Western medicine, is that end all be all, no person is a god over you, that like a judge, a jury, a doctor, a facilitator of some academic, institution. It's like, you're here for a reason, in your heart what that reason is. And if you believe that you can beat cancer, I believe you will beat cancer. I think that there is a will, and I think that we should be investing and supporting those sparks in people, that fire, that flame that they have. And no matter what comes up for them as an obstacle, if we were supported and praised instead of put down or like made to feel small, like there is no hope for this certain condition, I think things would be really different from the start. And then I think if we, apply these more natural ways of healing, that we're going to see a lot more people thriving in that environment. But there is a need for Western medicine in certain cases, and there is a need for surgeons and people to have help. So it's not like I'm trashing the system, but we definitely, all of us know the system needs an upgrade. We need some change to happen. And I think people are desperately needing that right now. So
I couldn't agree more. And by the way, Miss Morningstar, do you have anything to add to what Ian had just said?
I do. I do have something to add. So I agree with everything that Ian said. There definitely is a need and a need for this combined approach at some times. But if you're just looking at the everyday lifestyle, which is how you got into the predicament that you're in the first place, I think more of the integrative Eastern approach is the way to go. But something that's super important to look at is the emotional component to our bodies. And so when Ian was sharing that he had a lot of people pass away, and then he got kind of diagnosed with these health conditions, even like for myself and the symptoms I was going through, I had gone through a really intense breakup, and I didn't know how to handle that emotionally. So I got into powerlifting. I got into bodybuilding because I built up my physical shell looked awesome on the outside, but was crumbling on the inside. So these symptoms started to manifest, like some of those I mentioned before. And so I think a lot of us neglect how powerful our emotional body is to how we can physically show up and what that capacity is. And Ian mentioning the mindset portion, it's probably the most pivotal thing that we help people with first, because if you don't have the right mindset that you can change or you can shift things, you're not going to, right? You're putting yourself in this box. And I think we really want to create that change, that you have this limitless potential. Like, you don't have to suffer from this certain diagnosis or like follow what people are saying. And even for the ladies out there, that's the last thing I'll say, is when I was younger, I used to have these fits, we'll call them, when my family would leave, because I have this certain like abandonment response to that. And I would always be shushed. No one would really know how to help me cope. It was always like, shh. And so I learned to shh and not really speak up and use my voice. And so to this day, one of the symptoms that I've had is some thyroid issues. And so isn't it interesting that the voice and the thyroid are right here? And so obviously we know the thyroid is responsible for a lot of processes in the body. And what do you know, like in large portion, majority of women have hypothyroidism, or maybe even the autoimmune condition Hashimoto's. And so I want to encourage people to kind of look beyond the surface of, I need to take this medication for my thyroid, or I need to do this to get my levels in appropriate balance. No, I want you to also look at how the emotional body is responding to that sort of predicament that you're in. So that was just a very short example of looking at both the physical and the emotional side.
And I would be a bit surprised that if you went to a hypnotherapist, that hypnotherapist would tell you that fear that you had of abandonment came from a prior life. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to ask you both. My brother had stage 4 lung cancer, and he passed away. And he believed wholeheartedly that God was going to heal him.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't own it from from a personal perspective of, these are the things that I can do. The meditation, the eating better, the doing, quitting smoking would have helped.
Yeah.
I do have to say.
Yeah.
But do you find that in working on people's health, that it comes from the inside out rather than the outside external forces in?
What you got?
So great question there. I think it can be both. If we kind of look at, we are the universe in a sense, like the universe is within us. So what is your connection to God or to source? It's not depending on some outside thing to help save us, or say even a doctor to help save us. It is up to us, but how can we use this connection with source to help enhance our inside, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on a lot of different podcasts, people will ask me, like, the first stage, like, what is the first thing you would change for a person to help them, heal like you did? And my response is always the internal mindset, the vocabulary and how you talk to yourself is so crucial. People really don't understand. And I think where I see this is, I know I'm talented. I know I have a lot of talent, and I'm worthy. And I can say this for a long time, but since the beginning of time, I had this, because I was into music, poetry, and art. I was kind of in that bohemian kind of creative lifestyle. You come up into the world just pushing back, like, come play this festival for free. You'll get exposure. Come do this, and I don't want to buy your album, but you'll get exposure, and like none of those things ever come to fruition. But what happens is, little by little by little, you're giving yourself away in pennies, and you stop believing in yourself. Even though I'm telling myself I am worthy, I'm talented, I'm smart, I'm all these things. Internally, there's this kind of duality happening inside of you, where you're really struggling to believe the things that you're telling yourself, right? Because it's not reflecting on the outside. And so I think, like, what we're trying to do in our lives as a couple and as individuals, and what we're trying to convey in this tour that we're doing with the Soul Mission Sonic Meditation Tour, is to really help empower people to say, what if you woke up today and you decided that you are a superhero, and that all things that you want to be in your life could be if you just decided that so, right? Decided that that was so starting today. And that no matter what happened over the next 2 weeks, you just lived with this unwavering faith that you are a superhero and that all things are working in your favor. And so I think that's what I'm, not to say I'm not human or I don't have my moments, but it's like more and more as we're doing this. And it's like this entire tour for us is just trusting spirit. There's so many things that we weren't going to go here, but we were led by spirit, or something happened that brought us, and something canceled and something else opened up. And we're like, well, we weren't going to California, but I guess we are now. And so it's just like, the whole thing has been this way. And I think that this whole tour for both of us is nothing but the most massive spiritual exercise that I think I've ever been through. And I just was led by spirit to say, you need to put this in front of people now. For 2 years, I haven't been touring. I've just been doing, like I said, was kind of joking to you in the conversation before the podcast. I've been like the Beatles. I'm just doing studio albums and putting it out to the community. But this, and just being in front of people this last couple months, we've seen massive shifts, tears, movement of energy, people emailing us, calling us, telling us how profound their experience was. And I think it's just been a confirmation of just like why people need this. You look at the world and all the things that are going on right now, and like people need faith, they need hope, they need connection to community, they need to be able to speak their voice and to move some of this stagnant energy that's been present for so many of us for so long.
Well, and that's the thing, is that we were born great, and then throughout our childhood and our young adulthood, everybody tells us, well, you know what, you're not so great. And so you have to reclaim that at one point or another. And it's hard sometimes for a lot of people. It's hard to do because of the stories that they tell themselves and have been told to them for like forever. And it's really cool that you're out there now, and to help people to understand that. And you're doing it live not in front of thousands, but in front of 20, 30, 35, and you can really have an impact. By the way, if you want to find out more about these two lovely people, and I mean to tell you, they are something else, listeningtosmile.com is where you go. That's listeningtosmile.com. And Ian puts out music every month. I believe you put out a new album every month, which I would love to say the Beatles did, but they couldn't do that either. And you're doing that with the idea of continuing to grow the opportunity, and then Miss Morningstar is also doing meditations and helping folks with their physical stuff. It's a great combination that you guys have. And by the way, and you did mention, and I want to make this clear again, you said to yourself, and you may have said to Falyn, I'm going to go across the country and I want you to come with me. And you said, but okay, great, let's go do that. But we don't have any money. Oh, that is a problem. How did you get the money to start this?
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Well, yeah. So I knew it cost a lot of money being on the road. Like, you've got food, gas, and then you also have the places that you're staying. And I would say the places for staying are actually more expensive than anything else. After a while, it adds up. So I think how most bands that are getting started in this, they do it is they sleep on floors or couches, and they just crash wherever they can. And I know that both of us, didn't want to do that approach. And so we wanted to have something that was really an experience where we would always be uplifted with our rest, so that we could give our best at the next event. And so I just said one of my friends, his name's Dr. John. He's a pain doctor based in Fort Worth, Texas. And he's just been a really powerful mentor for me. He's into a lot of just really cool stuff, but he had bought this book called Wisdom of the Council. And it's a book that's channeled in, and it's all about spirit and communicating and becoming like the most authentic and highest version of yourself, basically. And he shared the book and had always shared some wisdom. And so I brought it to him and was kind of talking, as a mentor to him, and, as a mentor to me, to him, and just basically said, I know that's probably going to be $6,000-$7,000 to put this, just to get this leg started. And so he was like, well, you know what? You should just ask Spirit in the next couple of days to make it, a reality that you have what you need, at all times. And so I said, okay. So literally we just basically did a little prayer on the phone that night. And the next morning, the job that came through, because he was saying, why don't you set a monetary goal of what you would like? And I said, $6,000, let's just get $6,000 to get it started. So he said, did this little prayer with me. The next morning, there was a routine cell call that I had that should have been about $700, $1,000. And it ended up turning into a $6,000 sale. The next morning, it was $6,002 and 3 cents or something ridiculous.
That kind of validated everything for you, didn't it?
Right. Yeah. And it was kind of I was like, all right, okay, God, I hear you, and I guess this is meant to be, and I'm going to, take this on. And so from that point, I just never really looked back, and it's just something where everything has been pretty much provided and just linked and put us in the right place at the right time. And so we've just really surrendered to Spirit, and Falyn and I pray a lot and talk a lot about just Spirit and co-creation, and just also checking in with each other and making sure that both of us are taken care of, and our hearts are connected, and that we're really bringing positive, good energy into each of the events that we're working with people. It's really important to us. So,
boy, I got to tell you, Falyn, you haven't been doing this. You haven't known him very long, and your life, I can only imagine how much your life has changed in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. And I think I've been saying for years, I've wanted to travel. I've always wanted to have a partner to do that with. And honestly, here it is. The universe is giving it to me, and it's just asking me to upgrade with it. Even though it feels scary or uncomfortable, I'm still following that. And it's really proven to be such a gift, even amongst the challenges. It's like, it's fine. This is what is supposed to happen. And I know that Ian really helps me expand in that way, to help me be seen, to help me use my voice where it's needed, and to really open up my heart and not have this protective barrier around it, and that I can trust.
You just said again my favorite word in the English language. We need to take a quick break. We're going to talk about trust when we come back.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, because I tell you, these two are something special, and they're going to be all around the country this summer, and you can go see them. If they go to your website, will they be able to follow you along and find your schedule?
Yeah. So in the menu at the website, if you go to the services at the very bottom of services tab, you'll see the Sonic Soul Mission Meditation Tour. And it's linked with all the dates on there that they can click on and purchase a ticket.
That is just awesome, because you're going to be doing a lot. Now, I said the word trust, and let me explain what I mean by that. Is that I honestly believe, and I know this is in your case, you've got this team of people on the other side, angels and guides and ancestors and souls of all different types that are there, and they are on your side. And it's like, you have asked them specifically, okay, this is what we want, and they're saying to you back, this is what we can do, and this is what we're going to do, and it's like when you say, this is what I'd like, they're saying, finally, they're letting us in, They're letting us do what we need to do. And what they have up there, I picture them as being around a great big conference table. And they've got this map out, and they're putting the map and okay, we're going to go here and we're going to do this, and we're going to and this is where they're going to pick up this, and they're going to have money for this, and this is. Do you believe that that's possible, or am I on medication?
Do you know who Philip K. Dick was?
No.
Okay. So, a sci-fi writer. There's a show on Amazon called Man in the High Castle. So that's a show they made from one of his books into a show on Amazon. But he's, tons of movies, Blade Runner, tons of stuff. But one of the movies one of his books that they made into a movie was called The Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon in it. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it's very much like that. It's like this group of men in business suits that have these little books, and they go around and they're manipulating time and circumstances and possibilities to kind of forge people's lives in a certain direction. And I think I've often thought of that as being, the way that it must be, because I think there's so many things that our fragile minds cannot comprehend in this space and time. And I think that a lot of things that we think are for our detriment are actually for our embetterment, and it just, we can't see it at the time. Because I think when I look at what happened to me with my illness, I think like, oh, this was the worst thing that ever happened. And it was just such a really down time. But if you fast forward 10 years and I look back at that, it was a very pivotal marker of a change in trajectory of where I was going in life. And I would not be doing this music and what I'm doing now without that shift, I think. And so you look at how monumental these things can be and building us up, actually, or putting us on the right path. And sometimes we just needed a nudge, something to happen to make that so.
I'll tell you that I am a baseball fan.
Mm-hmm.
I watch baseball games a lot. The Mariners are doing very well this year. Thank you very much. But I will tell you this. The work that you're doing now is so far more consequential to humanity than what throwing a baseball could ever do. That was part of your journey to get from there to where you are now. And same thing with you, Miss Morningstar. This is your whole experience of life had led up to this, because this is going to be an extraordinary summer for the two of you, don't you think?
I do. I just recently rewatched Field of Dreams.
Oh, good.
and the part where they pick up the doc and they bring him, to the field. And they pick him up hitchhiking. You remember that? He's like the younger version. They bring him to the field. I think, yeah. Yeah. So I think what's fascinating about that movie is where the guy had the vision of the players on the field, but no one else could see them. And he told his wife, and she had a hard time believing him, but then she started seeing. So then she started trusting, but he still pushed forward, even when his wife and all the people around him could not see his vision. And then even on the road where they were going around, like where they got Jones, Lee Jones, what's his name? Darth Vader voice.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So they pick him up, and like he's having a hard time, but the whole time this guy
James Earl Jones.
James, yep. He had this unwavering faith of like, I know, and to me, when I watched that, what I related it to is this tour is like, I can't explain to you exactly why I know, but I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I know that it's having profound changes on us as individuals and as a couple, but it's also all the people that we're interacting with. And it's much, much bigger than just my music, or much, much bigger than just us as people. It's just, I think it's a conduit. There's a lot of energy that's coming through these opportunities of engagement with people. And it's just been really, really fun to witness. So,
well, I will tell you this. You came to me because of another guest that I had on recently, and she recommended that we get together. My guides and your guides are up there laughing their butts off because they're the ones who put this together, because I support you fully, completely, and I want to help you throughout the summer. And you're going to come on many times, and we're going to talk about where you are. We're going to play your music. We're going to have, because I'm all in, because
Cool.
when you say, all right, I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to go and we'll see what happens, but it's going to be good, and have that kind of faith and trust, then I can't help but buy into it and believe it right along with you.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate that. Yeah, tremendously.
So go to listeningtosmile.com to find out more about them. You can find out where they're going to be all summer long. Go to these events. I guarantee you they are going to begin to sell out, and they're going to be very, very special. And I want to thank both of you for being here. You're just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, if people cannot make it in person, we also have online events. So there's opportunity for everybody to join in.
And that's on your website as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. So go there and spend some time there. There's lots to do and lots to learn. And by the way, again, we've been talking with Ian Morris and Falyn Morningstar. And your middle name again is?
Hunter.
Falyn Hunter Morningstar. And again, it's been such a pleasure having you here, and I want to thank you so much.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Stay right there. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.